When was the last time you sat down and played a video game with no distractions? No phone next to you, no podcast running on the second monitor, no Discord open, just you and the game. If you're anything like me, it's probably been a while. I have my phone next to me displaying my baby monitor most nights when I play. I've gotten so used to divided attention that full attention feels almost impossible. But here's what I'm realizing. A divided attention is exactly why our sessions feel so forgettable. And that's what today's video is about. Attention. Not just being attentive, but where we direct it. Because where we put our attention determines what we experience. And for most of us, we're splitting our attention so thin that we barely register our sessions at all. Before we continue, if you're new here, my name is Bronson and this is XP Legacy. This is episode 2 of the Mindful Gamer series, where we explore how to enjoy the hobbies we love so much. For my returning legends, thanks for being here. Okay, let's crack on. Have you ever noticed that when you sit down to a gaming session, we don't just game? I'm playing Fallout 4 at the moment and the load screens take a minute, especially when you're loading back into the Commonwealth. Sometimes I'll jump onto Insta, watch some YouTube shorts, check Discord. Unfortunately, this has become a normal experience, to the point that just gaming feels inefficient. The issue though, our brains can't actually multitask. What we call multitasking is really just rapid task switching. And every time you switch, there's a cognitive cost. Every time I look at my baby monitor app on my phone or check Discord, my brain doesn't instantly redirect. There's a switch cost. Research by cognitive scientists show that these costs add up. You lose time, you lose accuracy, and you lose depth of processing. If I'm playing something, but I'm also half listening to a podcast or checking my second monitor because I'm watching the latest video by Gummy, my brain is trying to process two narratives at once. And the result? You can't fully retain either. Those big moments in the game don't land because your attention is somewhere else when it happens. Both the game you're playing and my mate Gummy's videos deserve our full attention. In episode 1 of this series, I spoke about memory encoding. Just to recap, what you don't attend to, you don't encode into memory. So there's an additional layer to this. Partial attention creates partial memories, and I'm definitely guilty of this. Even as I write this script, my baby monitor is right next to me. When we play with divided attention, we create fragmented, surface-level memories. And the painful reality is that the information processed under divided attention is much harder to recall later. So if you finish a game and you don't have any strong feelings about it, or aren't really sure what's happened, it might not necessarily be because the game was bad, but because you weren't really there to experience it. Honestly, I get it. Gaming can feel slow sometimes. Grinding, side quests, loading screens. It's tempting to reach over to your phone, check your second monitor to optimize your time. But what we end up doing is training our brain that gaming alone isn't enough. And over time, it becomes harder and harder to just be with the hobby we love so much. Okay, so I've talked about divided attention, splitting your focus. But there's another layer, selective attention. Even when you're giving a game your full attention, what you choose to notice completely shapes the experience. Here's how this can show up in gaming. Your brain can pay attention in two different ways. Goal-directed attention. This includes following quest markers, optimizing builds, checking minimaps, watching health bars. Exploratory attention. Noticing environmental details, observing NPC behavior, listening to ambient dialogue, wondering what's over there. Both are valid, but the richest gaming experiences usually blend both. And I find leaning into exploratory attention creates more memorable moments. When I play games like Skyrim or Fallout, I keep the HUD fairly minimal. It forces me to focus on the world instead of the interface, and honestly, the immersion is just so much better. It's worth asking yourself, when you play, where is your attention really focused? On the UI, on the minimap, quest markers, or on the actual game world? I've played entire games where I'm essentially just playing the interface rather than the game itself. And look, I get it, modern games aren't like old school titles. Retro games like Ocarina of Time didn't have quest markers pointing you to objectives. But modern open worlds feel so massive that some navigation help is necessary. It becomes a balancing act. Here's a concrete example. In my Fallout 4 playout, I'm doing the Freedom Trail quest right now. I have to follow this trail through the streets of Boston and take notes of letters and numbers along the way. I could so easily look up the answer online. It would take 30 seconds, but where's the immersion in that? Having to solve it this way forces me to interact with the city in a way I never would have otherwise. Yeah, it's frustrating, but I know when I figure it out, that satisfaction is going to hit different. And those moments, the ones where you actually solve something instead of just following markers, those are the ones that stick with you. Now, if you aren't having any issues getting fully immersed in your sessions, if you aren't experiencing any burnout, if you're just loving gaming at the minute, just keep doing what you're doing. However, if you are struggling, consider trying some of the following tips. I do them myself wherever it's practically possible. Start by trying one of the following, just one thing at a time. When you game, just game. No podcast. No XP legacy videos in the background. Turn off that additional monitor. Put your phone in another room. You might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. We've conditioned ourselves to want constant stimulation. But that discomfort is actually your brain adjusting to presence. Sit with it. Set an intention before each session. I mentioned in episode 1, but it's worth repeating. I've been streaming Skyrim, and I always set one goal before I start. Recently, I wanted to set up my farm, so that was my session's focus. Not play Skyrim for 3 hours, but build the farm. Try playing with no HUD or minimal UI. When you remove these elements from the screen, you're forced to focus on the actual world. Environmental landmarks, audio cues, enemy behavior. It completely changes how you experience the game. In the first episode of this series, we discussed intent, what it means to bring purpose into the games we play. For example, understanding your motivation to play a certain title, choosing a game you genuinely want to experience instead of a game you feel obligated to play. The difference between intent and attention is subtle. You can intend to experience the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, you can feel the butterflies when you load it up, but if your attention isn't there because you're listening to the latest The Pause Menu podcast, which I totally recommend by the way, or checking Discord notifications during load or cutscenes, you aren't really experiencing it. When you give your sessions your full attention, when you are selective about what you notice, environmental storytelling, NPC behavior, sound design, you aren't just seeing more, you are encoding richer and more detailed memories. You start to feel like a part of the world instead of just a guest. A 1-hour session of Skyrim with full attention can create sharper memories than a 4-hour session with divided attention. Because it's never just about the time we spend, it's about the depth of our presence. When we combine intent and attention, when we play with purpose and presence, that's when gaming transforms. That's when moments become memories. So what does this mean practically? When we game with full attention, when we're selective about what we notice, we create richer, more memorable experiences. Here's an example. When Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, I played the crap out of it. I was between jobs, so I'm talking 5-6 hour sessions, 5 days a week. And you know what? I absolutely remember nothing about that playthrough. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it, but there was zero intention. I basically played on autopilot. Now compare that to Clair Obscur, which I finished a few months back. I won't be forgetting that game anytime soon. Not because it's objectively better than FF7, but because I was 100% there for it. I totally get that single tasking feels inefficient. We've been conditioned to min-max every moment, to consume multiple streams of content at once. But here's what I'm finally understanding. You can't experience something you aren't paying attention to. Like I mentioned earlier, if you aren't struggling with this, keep doing what you're doing. But this is what I'm trying to do this week. Gaming sessions with zero distractions. For me, that means no baby monitor, phone in a different room, and turning off my additional screens. As I wrap up my first playthrough of Fallout 4, it's the least this game deserves. This is episode 2 of the Mindful Gamer series. Next time, we'll dive into immersion, what it actually means and how to create it. Until then, enjoy your sessions, legends. Catch you in the next one. Bye.